you so much, Kat, for being with me today, and appreciate your time for this interview.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and my first question to you would be, how are you enjoying Bali Major so far?
I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I know that there's a lot of criticism for it, but I think for the players, and I also think for the talent, I think it's been a pretty fun and easy event to be a part of. Obviously, like, there are a lot of tech issues and stuff like that, but there's not a whole lot that we as talent can do to fix it, or the players can do to fix it. So, at the end of the day, we do our best with what we got, and then after the day is done, we get to hang out at this crazy resort. So
yeah, right.
it's a pretty special situation. There are very few events I've ever worked that have been set up in a really nice area like this, and this is obviously number one.
What do you think of the major so far?
I think the major has obviously had a fair share of problems. Pulse being the partner for both the Lima and this major has opened it up to a lot of criticisms, and a lot of it is valid. There's some of it that isn't really valid, but I think what is really telling is not just this major, but just I think in general the community is pretty upset with a general downtrend in event equality for majors. And I think that is something that is honestly, I think some of it is just part of a general esports downturn. Some of it's part of a Dota downturn.
Yeah.
Some of it is a part of Valve. Obviously, they've been taking their hand more and more off of the pro scene, and I think that'll continue. So I think as much as people are upset by it, it is kind of the trend that's going to be happening. So yeah, I think in general people probably, as sad as it is, like, games grow and they die, and I think Dota is in a space where it is in a downtrend, and I think our events are going to experience a downtrend as well. And that's just something in general for people to think about. I know I've thought about it a lot over the course of, I guess, my entire career. Yeah, I guess it's been about 10 years at this point in time, so, it's kind of always a thought, how long is this actually going to last? So I think, in general, what our general esports should be doing is focusing on, while minimizing events, still keeping up with quality. So I think that means that, yeah, we aren't going to be in a stadium for all of playoffs, right? I think we're, having an audience in a stadium for only the 3 days or just the weekend probably makes the most amount of sense. But we can still make those days very quality, and we can still run great, interesting, entertaining events for the thousands of people watching online. So yeah, I think just because we're going through a downturn doesn't that mean that we have to sacrifice quality.
And what about if there's one thing that you can do, like one quick solution that you can do right here, right now, to improve the future of Dota as an esports? What would that be then?
Well, yeah, I think there's no easy solution, but a simple solution. I've heard this talked a lot about from tournament organizers. I think longer term planning is important. So I think if Valve's going to be taking their hands more and more off the esports, then I think it would be wise to plan the year ahead more than just year after year, right? I think, planning out the first major of the year, that shouldn't be a less than 6 month window, right? That should be something that you should know about a year ahead. And these organizers, especially organizers who are new, who are not experienced, right? You're gonna need that extra time. So I think that also helps with a lot of things, right? That also helps with the financial health of the scene, right? It helps with events being able to sell more and get better sponsors for, right? Because you going up to a sponsor and saying, hey, I have an event in 3 months, give me some money, you know, they might laugh you out of the office because they already decided their sales in December, January, right? So I think that would be the simplest thing that we could do to improve the health of the esports scene and the tournament organizer scene specifically. Over it, it's just longer term planning.
Because you mentioned that Valve is more offhand now, right? So how can we do long term planning if they're not actively involved in managing these events? Are they still actively hands on with majors at all anyway?
I mean, it's always kind of hard to tell what exactly Valve, what their motivations are, what they want to do, even I think within Valve itself, because a lot of times they're apparently voting on things. So there may be some part of Valve that is really pushing to, bring back the old Valve majors. I'm totally making this up, by the way. This is just an example, right? But like, let's say there's somebody at Valve who's like, I really want to bring back the totally Valve-controlled majors. Let's put millions back into it, right? And then there's a bunch of other people who are like, well, that makes no goddamn sense. Like, financially, why would we do that, right? And like the people involved in Dota, what they want to do and how they want to accomplish that. So I think it's always hard to be able to say. That being said, I do think it's just, I think it's fairly obvious that Valve is giving away more of the esports scene. And we kind of just need them to kind of have a plan and to be clear about that plan for not just the next year, but the next, 5 years. What are we going to be doing? Because I think that opens up the door for third-party organizers in creating something. Like if Valve is going to entirely step out in 5 years, right? Let's say, okay, we're going to stop doing TI and we're going to stop doing majors in 2 years and stop doing TI in 5 years, right? Like, then that will signal the third-party organizers, like, hey, you can create something that maybe replaces the DPC. Does Valve want to keep doing the DPC, right? Like, how long are they going to be doing it? Is the format going to change again next year? There's a lot of questions. And how do we get that out of Valve? I don't really know. I think, in general, it just requires the community in general to be pretty, and I don't mean like Reddit and stuff like that. I just mean like tournament organizers, players, teams. Like we all operate within the same ecosystem, so we should all be pulling towards the same general direction. Everybody has their own interests, but I think we should in general have a good idea of what we want out of the Dota 2 esports scene and push that towards Valve when those channels are open.
If that ultimately happens where Valve eventually just let go of everything, do you think ESL 1 is the one to take the help with the Dream League and everything?
I mean, I think it's pretty clear that ESL Dream League has created something that kind of rivals the DPC. But it's always hard, I think, for third-party organizers when you have a publisher involved. Like, let's say that guy that we were talking about, right? That guy who's like, I want to bring back the Valve Majors, right? Maybe that guy wants the DPC to also take over the whole year, right? Well, ESL and Dream League have created a product that is instantly shut out as soon as the publisher says so, right? I don't think Valve would do that, but it is something that's happened in the past, right? It did that to ESL very early on in League of Legends, for example. So, I think that it's pretty obvious that they are creating a bigger product that kind of rivals in some way the DPC. I think Riyadh in some ways kind of looks like a TI sort of product. It's a sort of World Finals. And I think that will definitely prolong the Dota esports scene, right? If Valve steps away from the DPC, then it does look like ESL Dream League will kind of fill that slot. There's pros and cons to that. You know, I work with ESL, but I'm not going to say that it's entirely a good thing that they do that. So, you know, we'll just have to kind of wait and see what Valve does, and then in turn, it's like everybody's waiting for Valve, right? Valve does something, then everybody else can decide what they're going to do in reaction to whatever Valve does.
Exactly. How are you liking casting with Avery? What's the
it's great.
experience now?
I think one of the things that I've noticed recently is that I think I've become a lot more comfortable with letting Avery take over some of the action, which is exactly what I feel like a duo at its absolute best, like the absolute best a casting duo could be, is able to interweave play-by-play from both of the sides, right? That is not easy to do, and that's why the dichotomy of play-by-play and expert is very traditional, right? It's easy to make that good, right? I think the absolute S tier a product could be is that when both parties are able to provide analysis and both parties are able to do play-by-play. Maybe still have a dichotomy of roles where it's, you know, like one person is the primary play-by-play, one person is the primary analyst. But I think one of the happiest things I've been about our duo is that I've been able to comfortably let go sometimes in the middle of a fight, and Avery will pick it up. And I think that makes the listening experience a lot better. I think it's cool to have the everybody does this. I think Owen was the one who like really set the trend because he does it extremely well. But I think I noticed it in like not just Dota, but all esports. But like Dota, a lot of play-by-plays want to be like rap god sort of thing. And I think it is a really cool thing to do. But I think that if you go on that long, I think it's even cooler if somebody else is able to step in and catch that and roll with it. So yeah, that's been the part I've been happiest about. And yeah, Avery and I are still really good friends. I'm enjoying a working relationship with him. And yeah, I've gotten to know him a bit more. He's, there are a lot of things that I think we see eye to eye on.
Good, interesting. Would you consider him as your best co-caster out of all the co-casters? If not, who?
It would be, I would put Avery in me and Blitz in B, like 1A, 1B, you know?
1A, 1B?
Yeah,
Okay.
like, well, like I think it'll be easier to say after me and Avery have completed our run, right? Because right now we're kind of in the middle of it, and we'll see, you know, maybe things stop working, or maybe things just keep getting better and better, and we eclipse me and Blitz. But I know a lot of people have a lot of fond memories of the duo with Blitz, and so do I. He's my best friend, so you know, it's hard to be able to replace those.
And then let's talk about the new DPC format that came about this year. What do you think? How has it impacted the talent scene specifically, either positively or negatively?
It's probably mostly positive. I think the format change from 6 weeks to 3 weeks has been mostly good because it's also opened up the third parties to come in. So ESL Dream League, we're able to do more. We'll see who else tries to get in on the space, though it is very crowded with ESL Dream League taking so much. They pretty much replaced the 3 weeks that was missing from DPC with their own 3 weeks. So,
Would you say the current talent scene health is good or okay, or
I think it's good. I think talent have worked together for a long time to create a healthy atmosphere. We're all very cooperative. We share rates with each other. We try and push rates up. So I think in that regard, we've created a very strong foundation for the talent. We don't undercut each other. We're very open with the rates that we're getting and stuff like that. So even if Dota experiences a downturn, I anticipate that the health of the talent scene is still going to be quite good.
yeah, there's things that happen like example, SA English talent kids, like how about them? Like for them,
That
sure
part
they'll
is-
say it's not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so that part's really weird because, so I bid to be one of the organizers for DPC SA, and I'll be honest, like, I didn't get it, but I'm not sad about getting it. Sorry, I bid to be the English coverage for the DPC SA organizer, and I'm not sad because I don't know how to monetize that. It is very difficult. I imagine. Like, it is a lot of hours, but your viewership doesn't get particularly high. So I think it is incredibly difficult to monetize. So I do sympathize somewhat with the organizers and not being able to pay talent. That being said, the rates there are abysmally low. So that part is quite bad for the talent scene, because eventually what we're going to get to is for these less valuable regions, it's eventually going to be like, what's the point of having an official commentator? Just give the rights to a streamer who will get more money because he will naturally have like 2 to 3K viewers, like because he's a decent sized streamer, and then you're just giving him a bunch of content to work with. That part's not particularly good, I think, because we've seen a general trend of esports turning from traditional talent to streamers, and I think there's a world where the streaming world can really help esports quite a bit. So I don't think we should shut that out entirely. That being said, what you would hate to see is basically just like, there's no talent jobs, we just give the rights to some guy who may or may not like treat the region and the games, with any sort of respect or anything. So yeah, it's an interesting part. There are harsh realities to face there.
No, you can't enlist embolden your talent cabal to do something about it.
I mean,
where does that joke come from anyway?
The talent cabal? Yeah, I don't know. I think the Dota community has gotten like really paranoid lately. I've thought about this. I think the problem is that Dota's gotten older and it's become less popular. And so the people who are still here are a bunch of diehard fans, and that I think, like, for a majority is great, because it just means you're just pure Dota lovers, just like me, and it's just like, okay, we can connect on that level. But that also means that it's also a lot of people who there is, I would say, a significant minority that is growing that like are, I don't know, like almost like obsessive about the like ups and downs of the game, and I don't know, people who are like just the term terminally online. Yeah, I don't want to like be too insulting here, but I think there's like a number of people who treat this with like a little bit like too much seriousness and importance, right? At the end of the day, it's an entertainment product about video games, right? Probably shouldn't be sending any death threats to anybody because they didn't talk about your video game correctly,
Yeah.
It's like that's a little over the, that person is terminally online. That person has lost any, grasp on reality.
Yeah.
So, and I think that minority, like, they almost become a larger percentage of the community as the community shrinks, right? Because they're not going to go anywhere. And there are plenty of people. My favorite people to meet are the people at LAN events who's like, they're like, yeah, I haven't played for like 3-4 years, like I got married and stuff like that, but like I still love Dota. I still love, like, I don't play, but I love watching the game. And then this tournament came, and I had a chance. It's 2 hours away. I had a chance to go to my first event, and I'm having a great fucking time. Like, I love meeting members of the community at LAN events. just because I experienced that same story over and over and over again, and I think it's really cool that like people have grown up and they've moved on, and in some part of their life they've moved on, and they've gone on to different things, but they still love Dota enough to come back and watch some games and stuff like that, and I think that's really cool.
What's next for you? In Dota or outside of Dota?
I mean, I've been asking that same question for probably like 6-7 years, probably since I left join Dota. Question of whether or not I give up talent work. Fortunately, I think I'm pretty motivated, hardworking, that I've managed to stay near the top this entire time. So I'm still getting work, but if that were to ever change, I would probably go into, I mean, I would just throw myself into esports because I'm best positioned to, I don't have a college degree, right? I left the military to do this, and I've been doing this ever since. So I'm not particularly well positioned to go into regular work. So I will do something in esports, probably something in production, esports production, but I hope I don't have to do that. Like ideally, I would love to be a Dota commentator when I'm 55, but you know, unrealistic to expect the game to keep going that long. So I know what direction I'll turn to when it happens. I just don't know when it's gonna happen. You know. So until then, I'll keep going. I'll be looking for other games to you know, supplement my commentating. If I find another game that I'm in love with, then I'll do that as well. But you know, nothing ever hits like Dota does.
Right. And lastly, is there anything you wish to say to your fans and to the Dota community?
To all my fans, thank you for supporting me. This job is a dream, and I always try and stay thankful that I'm still doing it. To the Dota community at large, you know, thank you for supporting Dota. Even those guys who like don't like me, unless you're like actively like in my DMs telling me to jump off a cliff, like even if you just don't like me or something, my commentating's not your style or whatever, like I still appreciate you because you've put into Dota, you are a part of building up the game that I love and that has created my career, and given me a whole like second chance at life that I didn't really know I was going to have. So yeah, I'm just very thankful for all of them.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Cap. That has been very wonderful, and really thank you for your time.
Absolutely, anytime.
Great.